Hi, welcome to the Web Ready Blueprint System series again. This is our web series on how to build a successful website, or preparing to build a successful website, or both together. Today we're talking about what you need to prepare before you go to the web designer. Because I'll be the first one to tell you that if you will put these things together before you go to a web designer, then you are going to save yourself so much money. So my guest again today is Mitch Nelson of Biz Ingenuity. He's one of the owners there and has lots of good information for us. So what we're going to cover today is we're going to talk about how to choose your messaging, or the importance of it and getting solid on that. We're going to talk about writing content and what will have the most value around that. Types of content that you can have prepared and ready. We're going to talk about understanding how to choose your website real estate effectively in terms of what should go on your pages proportionally, etc. And we're going to talk about defining your end goal. So again, Mitch is awesome at this, and he is going to teach us lots of good stuff today. So I'll turn the time over to him. Mitch?
Thanks, Leslie. I appreciate that. So we'll just dive right into this. Last week, for those of you who've watched the Hangout or have caught the follow-up on YouTube, we talked about preparing to build a website and things that you need to get together in order to kind of prepare to choose a web designer. We talked about domain. We talked about several things kind of that are the preliminary first steps. Today we're going to talk a little bit about diving into the content. So once your site's being developed and it's being designed and chosen your web designer, the things that you can do to kind of streamline that process and make sure that we're that you're optimizing that time and really minimizing the time it takes to develop your website. One of the things that we face at Biz Ingenuity, a lot of our clients are prepared to build a website. They know they need one. They come to us and they say, hey, I think this is what I want. They've got this idea in their head that they can't really articulate, and we put some stuff together, and they say, based on what they tell us, we interpret that the best we can. Well, no, that's not right. I want this or that. And a lot of the times we see that the clients themselves are the ones that draw that process out.
They aren't clear.
Yeah, they aren't clear. So we've developed a lot of education and working with Leslie and the Web Ready Blueprint System. Is a great opportunity for us to share some of that education as to how to articulate what you're thinking about when it comes to your website. Today, again, we're focusing mainly on content. So diving right into the first point, creating a clear message. The thing that you need to remember, and I think needs to be forefront in your mind as you're moving forward, is at the end of the day, you're either legitimizing yourself to current clients or prospective clients, or you're trying to sell prospective clients with your website. That's your goal. And so you need to go into creating your message knowing that you're either going to be creating a conversion style site or a brochure style site. Conversion style site is heavy on the call to action. Now, we are going to have call to action in regardless of any type of site that we do. But it's going to be a little more heavy and a little more obvious on your conversion style site. You're going to write as the page loads, you're going to have a form there with a big arrow pointing to the form, and fill out this form and this is what you get, etc. Those are common and good practices on conversion style sites. Now, if your goal is to perhaps educate your clients on your offering or what your business does, or a little more, we call it a brochure style site, a little more just kind of sharing information. It's good to understand that that's the direction you're going and that you want to tailor your content for that. But there is a trend going on in web design and web development right now that is different than it was in the past. When the web first became popular in the 90s, and then as it's evolved over time, you first saw a huge amount of information shared with people right from the get-go on a website. Your homepage, you were legitimized by how much information you could cram onto that homepage. If you had, miles and miles of text, then you kind of were, I guess, considered an authority on that topic. We were informationalists, and the style and the I guess
from the beginning, it was just a brochure. People were just going to a site for information, but that's not the way that it is anymore. Now they're going there for a purpose. There's so much clutter and so much competition out there that a site nowadays has to have a call to action. As we discussed last week, you only have 7 seconds once someone comes to your site to get their attention. So whatever it is, you need to have it front and center.
Yes, absolutely. And so we've moved from this informationalist structure to more of, nowadays it's more minimalist. I mean, you load popular sites. If you could go to any site, go to google.com. I mean, that's the epitome of minimalism, right? If you go to google.com, you know exactly what you're supposed to do. They don't even need to tell you, because it's designed in a way that you know exactly where you're supposed to click and where you're supposed to start typing. And there's no question.
Yeah, and that's an important thing to think about, is that you want them to know exactly what action you want them to take when they get there. Right?
Yes, absolutely. And so their content, if you will, is very driven towards a call to action. They want you to perform an action when they get on their site. So what do? They put their logo and they put their action, and that's it. So that's an extreme example of minimalism. We can use another very popular example, Apple.com. If you go to Apple's website, you'll notice that there's very little text on the homepage. In fact, in most cases, if you've got a standard sized monitor and you're looking at it on a desktop or a laptop computer, you probably won't even need to scroll. They've got their nav bar across the top. They've got a main image that they want you to see that perhaps focuses on, their iPad product or their iPhone product or whatever their latest product is. Yeah. And that's where your eyes go first. And then they've got maybe 3 or 4 what we call mini features along the bottom that are maybe the 3 to 4 next most important things they want you to focus on. And a lot of times they'll have other products there. They'll have services there, and then they'll have kind of their their PR type stuff. They're heavily involved in Product Red, which focuses on the cure for AIDS, as well as other community things. They'll talk about that stuff there. So the idea there is that you're not drowning them, like we talked about the sites back in the 90s and the early 2000s that would just have miles and miles of text on that first page. That's not the idea anymore. So as you're going into thinking about your message and your content, think about how you can simplify your message. Think about how you can drive your message down, just like what we talked about Google. Man, if you could drive your message down to something that's simple, people are going to use your site because it's easy, and they don't have to spend a minute when they get your site. They have to spend a second, and that's going to increase usership. So drive right down to, especially on your homepage, drive right down to exactly what that message is. And then as they click on things, again, Google's a great example. You perform that action, and then you get infinite amounts of information after that. You can just click for days, and that's how you should treat your website.
It's kind of like leapfrogging. You take them to one piece of information, and then that can lead them to another, and that lead them to another, instead of just
exactly.
drinking out of a fire hose.
Yeah, you should be able to plot your website out on almost like a tree. You've got your basic information at the very top, with just the most simplest form of the messages you're trying to share. And that may be one message like Google, or that may be 3 to 5 messages that you're trying to get across like Apple. Both do a very good job of minimalism. But then as they click or perform an action on that first page, then it spreads out and you're sharing more information through those layers of clicks as you go down. So, and feel free, for those of you out in internet land, if if there's questions, feel free to comment. And we've got Dennis here who will.
We actually have a question.
Okay.
David asks, "What's your zodiac signs, you two?"
I'm a Capricorn.
Okay, I'm a Gemini. Could you tell? That's funny.
I'm sure we'll be getting comments about that. So feel free.
Yeah.
Feel free to pipe in.
One thing that I want to just point out right now at the beginning of this as well, because there's some of you who maybe you might not even be ready to build a website yet. You might just have an idea. But what I want to point out while you're watching this is that all of the things that we're going to talk about today are things you can start on right now. As soon as you have an idea that you know that you want to develop, you can start to do some of this stuff. Start writing your content. Start figuring out what it is you want people to do when they come to your home site. Get an idea around that. And then as we go on and talk about these things, as we go through this series, you'll learn more about. We'll talk, for instance, on exactly what should be on your homepage. And we'll do a whole series on that. How to develop your site map, those kinds of things. So when we're talking about content today, just understand that it is something that you can be working on as soon as you have an idea. And then you can start developing a file and saving things that you think you might want to use on your site, all those different things. So just keep that in mind as we're going through this, that it's something that even if you don't have a website currently, you can be working on this and collecting this information so that you're more prepared. If you already have a website, that's great, because now you've got all of the different things that go into creating that you can enhance your website with, or if you're just at that point where you are going to a web designer for the first time. So again, whatever level you're at, this is all really valuable information.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, absolutely. And diving into the writing the content point, I think connects with what you're saying. As you're starting to write your content and decide what that message is, and keeping in mind, that the internet is a minimalistic community more than it is an informationalist community anymore. That you need to focus on that minimalism, and then that will lead to the information deeper. Also, go ahead.
I was just going to say, one thing to keep in mind with that is write your ideas down. Write your copy as best you can, because there's lots of people that will help you.
Yeah.
The ideas are the hardest part. So if you can structure it and get your ideas down on paper and just do the best you can with writing, a lot of people that have websites and even blogs aren't good writers, but they have amazing ideas that people want to connect with.
Absolutely.
So there are lots of resources to help you refine that copy when you're ready to put it on your website, or to edit when you're going to write a blog, or any of those kinds of things. So the important thing is just to get your ideas on paper.
Get them on paper.
Get it done.
Don't worry about, it's never going to be perfect. And if you wait till it's perfect, you will never have a website. because you'll go through revision after revision, and there'll be something you don't like, and there'll be something you're not comfortable with. And I see it quite frequently with clients. It's important to remember that a website is an organic thing. It's breathing, and it's growing, and it's something that
evolving.
Yeah, it's evolving. You can add content to it on a daily basis, on an hourly basis if you want to. You can change that content. It's not something that it's set in stone once it's done. I see
progress, not perfection.
Exactly.
It is a process.
Exactly.
And like Mitch says, the most important thing is just to get started.
Get started. In the office, we call it analysis paralysis. You don't want to analyze something so deeply that you just get paralyzed by it and you end up doing nothing, because then you're in the same boat that you were in before you even started the process, which is you don't have a website and you're not out there and you're not marketing your company or your idea. Once you have some content, just get it down on paper. Once you have it on paper, put it up. That's version 1.0 of your website. And you know what? In an hour, you can have version 1.1 of your website. You can make all the revisions you want. But just get something out there.
Absolutely.
So as far as writing content goes, I mean, that's the biggest thing. Just do it. Keep the principles that you're learning today in mind as you do it, but just do it and get it down on paper and then get it up on the web.
Right. It is the most important thing, but it is a process. And that's partly how you keep people interested and how you keep the search engines coming back and searching your site as well, is by, constantly putting up fresh content or making changes and things like that, which we'll talk about a little bit more. Yes. And that's something in the Web Ready Blueprint workshop, the 3-day workshop that we do. We spend a lot of time helping you with all of these different steps, and content's a huge part of that. We have a whole day, add-on day, dedicated to that.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Very important. Get started.
Yes, and as you're kind of compiling that stuff, keep in mind that there's more than just the text that you need to focus on. There's different types of content out there. So text is important, and there's different types of text as you start to get into writing and start to advance a little bit with your website, and it's been up for a while. You might want to start looking at those different types of text articles or the different types of text content that focuses, I guess, on different end goals. You're going to have content on your website that's focused towards your readers, and that you want to tailor to your readers. And those are going to be people that you're probably trying to sell something to. So you need to make sure that you're hitting on all the points that your readers want to, are going to want to.
Questions, objections.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Things that they'll want to digest as they're learning about your company, and captivate them, etc. But then there's also content that's written for search engine optimization, and that's kind of a different set of content. That's almost playing, walking a fine line there, because you want to make it something that a user could read and potentially enjoy and learn something from. But I think the main focus in optimized content is making sure that it has the right keywords in there, that you're not, there's certain rules that you'll follow that, we can get into another day. I mean, we could spend a whole session just talking about that.
Yeah.
But understanding that there's those two different types of text content, just text by itself. But also,
I was going to say, and keep in mind, again, write it the way you would write it, and then someone can also help you optimize it.
Yeah, just like you would if you're writing a paper or even writing an article for your website, you might take it to a trusted advisor, your spouse or your business partner, and have them look over it and make revisions and suggestions. You would do that on the one end of the content. You can have somebody look over it that's professional and understands how SEO content works and make those revisions and suggestions. So, and in that light, it's good to have partners in those areas that can help you with that. But that's text. A lot of times people forget that it's not just about the text. We're a very minimalist society now, like we talked about.
Everybody learns a different way.
Yeah.
Some people want to read it. Other people want to hear it. Other people want to watch it. And there's all those different kind of contents that you can cater to.
Yep.
So, for instance,
and getting back,
did you want to go into the different types of content next, or?
Well, yeah. And that's
Okay.
That's where I'm at with the types of content.
Great.
So focusing on text, and then also images. We are like I mentioned, we are kind of more of in a minimalist style right now. And to the cliche, back to the old cliche, a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? Mm-hmm. So if you can say something in a picture that would take you. I mean, think about your website as real estate, right? If you can say something in a picture that takes up, the amount of room that you don't even need to scroll, and maybe to describe that out in a paragraph, you've got 3 or 4 pages worth of content, or 3 or 4 printed pages worth of content.
You have to work them up to a feeling or an emotion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas a picture, they can look at it instantly.
Yeah, and get the message.
And feel something.
Exactly. So keep that in mind. You may not, with something that you want to go and write 4 paragraphs about, you may not need to write 4 paragraphs about. Go find an image or create an image. Partner with a designer, or your web designer should have the ability to help you with that. Or if you've got a graphic designer, either way. But create an image that can get that message across, whatever that message might be.
And you don't have to always create it yourself, because like he was saying, there's all different kinds of places that you can go for stock images that can do the same thing at a very, very low rate.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's very affordable. There's very affordable options out there. So, so with that in mind, I mentioned kind of thinking about your website as real estate. That minimalist attitude, you're going to be taking up less real estate, the least amount of real estate possible with everything that you want to say. And if you're always working towards that, you're going to be you'll have certain successes that you'll see. You're going to get people staying on your site more. You're going to get people clicking on different pages. Video is something that gets people to hang out on your site for a while. And that's something that text isn't doing. People aren't going to sit around and read paragraphs and paragraphs of text.
Well, and that's one other thought too, in terms of your content's not going to all be on your website. So you're going to use your social media, and you're going to use your video in particular on other sites like YouTube or Google Plus or Facebook or any number of other, Vimeo, lots of other places that you can post that content as well, because links are also valuable. So you can link to and from, and that gives you SEO value too.
Yeah, absolutely. Links are huge, because you can, you don't need to recreate content that's already out there on the web. If you've got, a social media site, or even a partner that you work with, you can link to their stuff and they link back to your stuff. I mean, not only is that going to help with SEO, but it also makes you look reputable. If you're linking to another reputable site and they're linking to you, you're all of a sudden in the mind of your reader or your user, you've got a trusted partnership there. And so now you have a shared reputation as well. So I guess that could be a negative thing, but you want to make sure you're using it as a positive thing.
Right.
So.
And so real quick before we move on too, so one thing to think about is like one of the other web series that we're doing, or YouTube series that we're doing, video series, is teaching you how to use Google Hangout on air. And that is something Dennis is doing with us and is the guru of. And that's somewhere where you can go and you can learn how to actually create something with a free tool, which is the Google On Air Hangouts on Air. That will automatically, when you're done, and you can record that, you can stream it live, or you can make it private and post it later, whatever you want to do. But that creates content that then you can post, post on YouTube. If you're doing it live, it will automatically post on YouTube. It will share on Google Plus, all those different platforms, where you can also include the link to your website with the idea that that's all going to drive traffic back to your website. So all of these things work interactively, and they're all content.
Yeah, absolutely. And as like you said, kind of creating that content that gets indexed by Google. The pages on your website are going to do that. I find that the pages that you create, your About Us page, your services page, those tend to stay pretty static over time. You might change them every 3, 6 months, 12 months. But those tend to stay pretty static because your offering usually stays pretty static. You can change it as it evolves. But you want to be creating that consistent content, and you do that through Hangouts, through YouTube videos, through your blog. As you're writing, as you're creating your website, you should be thinking about, is a blog something that you have time for? Or if you don't have time for it, you have the resource, the budget to pay somebody to be writing a blog. As you create that consistent content on a daily or a weekly basis, or even every 2 weeks, as you're doing that, you're going to be increasing the value of your website to the search engines, and therefore increasing your rank. So that's absolutely something that I would focus on as you're looking at content.
And I just want to touch on
please.
blending the two. In fact, hold on a second. I'm going to actually show myself here. So blending the two types of content that you guys were talking about can be done quite easily. So you may have like a Hangout on Air. A lot of people do Hangouts on Air like this, big, long, educational pieces, but they can be something as simple as a 2-minute tutorial. And I do this all the time. I create little tutorials that will give you the content of how to, and you can screen share up on the screen so you can show stuff. You can put PowerPoint presentations through it, and you don't need to have a guest. It can just be you. I mean, technically this HOA right now is just really one camera. It's just, we've set them up for multiple people. Once you create that, it may be that all you need to do is capture those pieces of information, if you're not a writer, and then hand that over to a transcriptionist. And a transcriptionist can take that for 3 cents a word, turn it into a written document, hand it over to somebody who can then edit it for readability, which we already talked about, you probably have. And all of a sudden, boom, you've got, in 5 minutes, you've probably got a 500 to 700 word blog post ready to go with the video content to embed along with it.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
sometimes you
Awesome.
can do some of these things and blend the stuff together. It's just how you think about it. You've got to start, like
Absolutely.
Mitch said, you've got to start thinking about creating content in various ways. Whatever's going to work for you is the way it needs to be, but capture and create content.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I'm a firm believer in recycling content as well. In fact, where did I read this? I believe it was in a book called The Referral Engine.
Great book. I
Jay
read that.
Jantz. Yeah, I guess we're plugging books now on the show.
That's good. The more resources we give people, the better.
Yeah,
Love it.
but he has a whole chapter where he talks about, you have a great thought, and that thought's a one-liner. So what do? You throw it on Twitter. And that thought, then you can take and you can turn it into your Facebook post. You expand on it a little bit, and then you expand on that, and it becomes your blog post. And then you expand on that, and maybe it becomes the topic of an HOA that you do that week. And then you expand on that, it becomes a book. Prime example here, we can plug Jen's book as well.
Yeah, that's great.
We've got Jen Foster, who just released this book. I've known Jen for years, and she teaches fantastic principles.
Should be part of our workshops.
Yeah, but as we've had a chance to sit and have a conversation about those different principles that she teaches, she's condensed all those ideas and all those were probably blog posts and at a lower level probably Facebook posts and little nuggets of information. She's just reused all that content and turned it into a book. So you can reuse content on every level from top to bottom, and you can take it the other direction as well. You can kind of narrow down that content into something as simple as as a Twitter post. So think about that as you're creating content. You don't necessarily need to create something new. You don't need this earth-shattering idea every time you're going to post something. Pull off of a Twitter post you had last week, or pull off of an idea or something that maybe something you saw here. You can create a post out of that eventually turns into a content center for you.
Or you find something that you've read or an article somewhere that was interesting, and you write your opinion of it, and you put a link and link it. It can be as much as or as little as one paragraph that just has a few keywords in it that gives your opinion of that particular article that you read, and link it out to that article, and there's a blog post. So
Yep.
lots of easy ways to create it without having to do all the work.
Okay, we've been
yourself.
doing all this plugging. I need to put this comment up. Oh,
Yeah. In fact, let's jump to the comments. Let's catch up on questions.
So Jason Lattis says, so awesome. I can't wait to work with the Web Ready Blueprint system.
Thanks, Jason.
Fantastic, Jason.
He's awesome too, by the way. Summerbodynow.com.
Yeah.
Cheryl Deuce is saying she's going to have to catch on Replay City. If you don't know what Replay City is, that hashtag is used all over Google Plus to connote that you're going to watch an HOA later. So if you're looking for interesting HOA content, often searching the hashtag Replay City can show you what your friends have been thinking they wanted to go back and see. It's a really great way to find good HOA content.
That's great. Huh. And again, watch an HOA and write a little 2-paragraph blog article on it.
There you go.
Yeah, do a follow-up on an HOA. Take some time and do some time stamping for the HOA. Man, the hosts will love you. You go through and time stamp their HOA.
Yeah, explain that so people know what you're talking about.
Time stamping is a way of all you have to do basically is you have to just turning the camera around. You have to put in the code in a Google Plus post or a YouTube comment. If you put in the name of a video on YouTube and then you put 2 digits, colon, 2 digits, colon, 2 digits.
Digits meaning?
Numbers.
Okay.
So
any numbers.
1 colon 02 colon 34 right next to the YouTube link is going to take you directly to the point in that YouTube video that is 1 hour, 3 minutes and 24 seconds or whatever. So you can go through while you're watching it and take notes on it and take notes about the time. And if you do that in a G+ post, now somebody could read that and go directly to all the points that you thought were interesting.
That's great.
You want to get yourself found by a really powerful Google Pluser? That's a great way.
Yeah.
They're going to love you to death. Some of my favorite people have, I got to know them because they've done that on my posts.
Yeah.
Such great little nuggets we get at these things. I love it.
Well, and you want to talk about, driving traffic to your website. I mean, there's no other way to do that than content. And if you're writing good content and consistent content, then you're going to get picked up by some guy out there who's got 10,000, 100,000, 1 million followers, and he's going to start reposting your stuff. And guess what? That's going to mean traffic to your site.
Yeah.
I've got a close friend of mine who he's actually a musician, and we've been friends for years. But just this year, he and his wife became famous on Vine, and it's because they decided we're posting content.
I love those.
They got famous off of content, and it's it's something that the internet is a great tool for that. That we couldn't have done that type of marketing for ourselves 20, 30 years ago, but today it's an amazing tool that we can do right from our home in our pajamas. We can create that content and build a popular business or a brand or a franchise or whatever you're working on, or in his case, a music artist.
And all these little things we're mentioning, we'll do some of these hangouts about and tell you more about them. If you want to know what vines are, go watch the movie Chef. It's got a little bit of language in it, but it's a great movie. But it shows a really good example
NSFW.
of how a vine used.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I said NSFW.
Yeah.
Not safe for work.
Yeah, but good example of what a vine is in that movie. So we'll talk about that more later.
Yeah. Well, no, I think that was a great kind of tangent that we went off on, because it was I mean it was pertinent,
we love
relevant.
these.
Yeah, very good information there. But I want to touch on something that I mentioned a few minutes ago. Think of your website in terms of real estate, and you want to minimize the amount of real estate that you're taking up, because that means that you're creating content that's easy for your readers and your users to digest. So the logic there is, instead of having a page that's this long, can you get it down to this and share that same quantity of information? If you can, then that means that your quality of information has gone up.
So we don't mean smaller text.
Yeah,
We
that
need
doesn't
better
mean
information.
decreasing the font size. Yeah, it means a better source of information, even if that means converting one type of information or content into another type of information or content.
Now, there is actually a flip side to that as well. The authoritative value of blog posts over 2,500. Now, keep in mind, 2,500 words.
That's a lot of words.
It is a lot of
That's
words.
a lot of words.
If you're writing one of these blog posts, do not optimize it. This must be like a small book. It must be very authoritative. The algorithms will detect games being played.
Right.
But if you do this often, a few times a month, once a month, this is how websites like Huffington Post and Wall Street Journal get where they are, because Google gives added power to sites that become authoritative. And the biggest thing, aside from links and all the other typical games, is the posts above 2,500.
Yeah.
So, but you better be a good writer if you're going to play that
Sure.
game, right?
Right.
It can be played, and it can be very successful program, but not everything's for everyone.
So that's where you can tap into guest bloggers.
Yeah.
So if you aren't a writer, but you have great contacts and connects, then get them to guest blog for you, because it will help both of you as well. So again, you don't have to be a great writer to create great content.
Absolutely.
You've got lots of resources.
Shout out to Marie Cannon. She's hanging out with us in Wisconsin. Chef is an awesome movie, she says.
Yes. I think this might be a good place to throw in a note as well. We're covering all levels of content creation here. We might be overwhelming you with what we're talking about. You don't have to be a A+ blogger out of the gate. We're talking about entry level stuff all the way up to a little more advanced stuff. So do what you're comfortable with. Again, keep in mind, we don't want you to get analysis paralysis here. We don't want you to look at this and say, this is overwhelming. I forget it. I don't even want to do it.
Start where you are.
Yep. Just start where you are.
Just get started.
These ideas are simply so that something intrigues you. You grab onto that one thing and run with that. We're casting out seeds here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But again, just get started. It's the main thing. Take action.
Absolutely. I'm curious, were there any follow-up comments from the person that asked us our zodiac signs?
No.
No?
No
Okay.
comments
That's
on
probably
that.
a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any feedback for the second half of this workshop?
Not on that.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
I'm going to throw this one up. This is actually my own comment, but I just do you have someone that edits your drafts either for readability or for optimization? I put that up back a little while ago when you guys were talking about that, and it's just a good idea to, do you have those people? If you don't, maybe that's someone you ought to know about. You don't need to hire them, but know who you're going to hire if you need to hire them.
Yeah.
Mhm. Exactly.
Well, and you'd probably be surprised if you sat down and thought about your personal contacts or your professional contacts. My wife's best friend has a degree in English and writes press releases for a large corporation in Portland. So, I send her information all the time and say, hey, will you just look at this and just give me some thoughts? And because she's a friend, she's willing to just do that for me. So, and there were years that I knew this girl that I didn't even think to take advantage of that. I mean, of course, there's, it's money in the bank. You probably should be doing favors back if you're getting it for free or at least paying, a little bit for it. But keep in mind that you probably have content or contacts that can help you proofread or make suggestions on your content as you're writing it. So,
or know someone that does.
Yeah.
And you may be
Absolutely.
surprised at how inexpensive it is to either have something optimized or edited for readability.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, we're also going to do one of these with Jay Taylor from Write, W-R-I-T-E, WriteTimePlanning.com, who's an incredible writer. And he's going to come on and do one of these on content. And he also teaches at our workshop. So he's incredible. You'll love him.
Okay, we've got a question from Marie Cannon. What exactly do you mean when you talk about optimization? And I think I'm guessing, because that was really in the first 5 or 6 minutes that we talked about that. So I think Marie probably missed a little bit. Catching up.
Yeah, absolutely. When we're talking about optimization, we mentioned that when you look at the text that you're going to be putting on your website, and as you're creating that content, you're creating it for one of two things, generally. And that is either for a person to read and digest, and in that you would focus on things like call to action and things that you would direct towards an actual human reading it. And then there's content that is more focused towards your search engine visibility. And that's what we mean when we're talking about optimization. So in doing that, you're not necessarily talking to a human. So you'd write it in a slightly different fashion. It's going to say, if a human read it, they would understand what you're talking about. It's legible. It's got content in it. But maybe certain words are replaced for long tail keywords. So the flow of it may not be as eloquent as one that was written for an audience, for a human audience. So that's what we mean when we talk about content that's written for optimization versus organic content. So.
Well, and also one thing to note too on that subject is that all of your images, Google can't search an image. So all of your images need to have a description. And so that's another part of optimization that you don't see, but that's behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So let me just clarify something, just in case we've got a really big SEO guy out there. Google couldn't search images.
Right.
Past tense. It's not fully rolled out, but inside Google Plus, they have been playing with an algorithm that is unbelievably accurate. And so they can now they haven't rolled it out on Google search, but if you go in Google Plus and you put in wheel or dog, it'll bring up all sorts of photos that are untitled. But that being said, regardless of whether they've got that technology or not, you may have an image of a wheel, but you're using it as an analogy to something about your business. So using your keywords in a valuable way is still important. But I just wanted to make certain that in case anybody else knew what I knew, we didn't get oh, you can't do that now. So there you go. Updates and changes coming soon to Google Plus. They're saying within the year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Or to the rest of the Google within the year.
Wow.
Very cool. Yeah,
Always changing. That's exactly what we're talking about.
Jason has another question.
Okay.
This is so weird. Now his question won't even show up on screen share. Sorry, guys. But he asks, do you guys have a seminar that I can attend?
Well, we'll be doing these hangouts on different subjects, but we do have the Web Ready Workshop System workshops where they're 3 days where you can come and you can learn everything we're going to cover about all these different topics from amazing presenters. They're going to teach you more about this in depth, and that we're going to help you do some of it at the workshop, which I think is the most valuable part of all.
Absolutely.
Is that you're actually going to get some of this done. And then we also have a 4th day that you can add on where you can stay and work on whatever content is most applicable to you. And we'll have, people there will be available there to help you with that. So thanks, Jason, for asking. Yeah.
Will we be able to put a link in the conversation?
Yeah, they can go to the website, just webreadyblueprintsystem.com. There's also a free video training there that talks about the 12 most important things that you can do in preparing to go to a web designer. But there's also information about the workshops on my website. So go check it out. We'd love to have you. I promise it'll be the best money you'll ever spend. So thanks for asking, Jason. Where are we?
Any other questions or
Yeah.
comments at this point? Okay. You want to bring up?
No, I think we're caught up right now.
Okay.
Great.
So as we're talking about, the different types of content and what you're going to put on your site, thinking of your site as real estate, wanting to really minimize that real estate, by using images and video, you still want text there because of the optimization. In fact, that was great timing for that question. You want your site to be picked up by the search engine, so you want you want text content on those pages. Your blog is going to do amazing things for that optimization. So, that's one of the main purposes of having a blog, especially on a commercial website. If you got a business or a service that you're plugging.
Yeah, it's your best source of fresh content.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and getting the search engines to keep coming back.
But on your static content, and especially on your homepage should be mostly images and video with a little bit of text to make sure that it's being picked up by the search engines. But on your second layer pages and others, I've got what I like to call the 50-50 rule. And that, again, if you lay out your web page, the page in question, you want it to be media heavy. You want 50% of the real estate being taken up by images and video and links and things like that.
I knew I liked you for a reason.
Yeah. Right. And then the other 50% is text. You don't want to be text heavy. We're not, this isn't informationalism anymore. Now, with that said, there are exceptions to that rule where you dig down deeper into the content. You may have to have pages that have a lot of text, but for the level 1, which is your homepage, and the level 2, which is the pages that they can click to off of your homepage, those pages need to be media heavy. Otherwise, you'll see people bouncing off your website left and right. So keep that in mind. Visual balance really is key.
And Google tracks that kind of stuff. So if people
Yeah.
are bouncing off your website, it'll make your website start to go down.
Yeah, it'll decrease your authority. Absolutely. Visual balance is, we've talked about this. What's the number? People in about what? Is it like 0.7 seconds they decide whether
7 seconds or less.
Oh, 7 seconds or less. Okay.
Mhm.
7 seconds or less, they decide whether they're going to stay on the page. So if they click on a page and they see just paragraphs of text, and most people are going to think, I don't have time for this. I've got other things I got to do. They bounce. But if they click on the page and there's an image and within a second or less, they can register exactly what that message is going to be, they're going to stick around. And it's kind of reverse, it's a reverse psychology there, but they're going to stick around and they're going to see, what other information that you can provide because there's value built immediately.
And that goes back to what Mitch was saying earlier, where an image, is worth 1,000 words.
Yeah.
They can look at something and process that and possibly feel something that will make them want to stay on the page and read.
Yeah.
That to go to a page that's all text,
Yeah.
people just aren't going to stay there.
Yeah. I do need to throw an asterisk up as we're talking about content. And I love that Dennis is here. He's an expert on Google Plus. Google is the search engine that has the most market share. Use Google's products, use YouTube, use Google Plus, use, anything you can that's Google, use that stuff, because whether they do or, whether they advertise it or not, they like it when you use their stuff. And it's going to make it easier for them to find your site and to give it a little more authority on their search engine if you're using their stuff.
You can actually tell how much they like you using their stuff, because the more you use the stuff, the earlier rollouts happen. So the next time you get a rollout on a change in Gmail, ask 4 or 5 of your friends if they've seen it or not. It'll end up making you feeling really good if you saw it first.
Right.
And if you didn't see it first, you need to take Mitch's advice and work a little harder.
Yeah. Use more Google stuff.
Dennis will keep all of us up to speed, right?
You bet.
Yeah.
Happy to.
Yeah. And for those of you who aren't aware, YouTube is actually a Google product. So by embedding YouTube videos into your website, you're using a Google product, which is only going to help you with search engine optimization. Now, with that said, there are types of content that you want to avoid. Don't put flash stuff on your website, because the search engines can't index that stuff and they have no idea what's there. So you want to avoid things like flash and whatnot. Even though it's pretty, it's not going to help you very much from an optimization standpoint.
You can even
thing
get
without-
penalized
Yeah,
depending on how much
Yeah.
you're using it.
Yeah. And you can get the same effects as Flash.
with HTML5
Yeah, exactly.
or a YouTube video. I mean,
Or even just an animated GIF sometimes, depending
Yeah.
on how simple
Absolutely.
the Flash was.
which is just an image file. Yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely. So yeah, there's alternatives there, but stay away from Flash.
and Flash doesn't show up on mobile devices either, right?
Oh,
well,
no.
not
So
on, not on
definitely
Apple
don't want it
devices.
on your
Yeah,
website.
it'll show up on Android, but it's glitchy.
Yeah. So bottom line, don't use Flash.
Yeah, yep. So there's a good asterisk there. So what's your end goal? We kind of touched on this at the very beginning. Where are we at time wise? Looking good. Okay. So what you need to, I guess, from the beginning, you need to keep in mind the end, right? You need to decide what your end goal is. If you're a business, if you have a website out there that is for capitalistic purposes, your goal is to sell somebody, whether you want to admit it or not. Your goal is to sell somebody your product or service or idea. So you need to be focused on, if that is your end goal, which I think for most of us here and out there, that's going to be your end goal. Focus on your call to action. How are you going to get people to do the things that you want them to do when you get to your website? I see so many websites out there that, they put in their slider, they put up pictures of their office and it scrolls through, and then they've got a couple paragraphs on their homepage of who they are and their mission statement. Nobody's going to read that stuff. Nobody cares. When they get there, they're going to look at it and think, I have no idea whether these guys are relevant or not.
Hey, if it's 1932 and you just moved into the Empire State Building, then a picture of your office is worth talking about. But
Sure.
by 1933, forget about it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
forget about it. Yeah, exactly.
Forget about it. Exactly.
Yeah, so really focus on those call to actions or calls to action. This is a grammatically correct way to say that.
Yeah.
Focus on those calls to action. We mentioned Google at the very beginning. Man, if you could get your clients or your process down to a point where you've got one little text box and your logo, and that's all you want them to do when they get to your site, you've got it made. People will do that all day long because they understand exactly what you want. Groupon's another example. If it's your first time going to Groupon, they've got the Groupon logo and a box that in the box it has a shadowed out, your email address here. Type in your email address, hit enter. Takes you to another one, your zip code here. Type in your zip code, hit enter. Now you can use the site, and the site has been completely customized to those customers. So what's that doing for Groupon? Increasing conversion. It's also capturing information so that they can go back later and market to these customers via email. But not just that, tailored to their specific location and demographic. So, by keeping that end goal in mind, you can really tailor your content and the flow of your site to having a success, having successful conversion, whatever that conversion looks like. Conversion for one might be, a financial transaction. You're exchanging a product or service for money. That might be a conversion for some. A conversion for others might just be, I just want their information. I've got a client that does student loan debt consolidation. They're not trying to sell you anything on their site. All they want is a phone number from you, so they can call you up, let you know exactly what they can offer, and then you make the decision as to whether you want to buy it. But that's a conversion for them. So decide what your conversion is and build the entire flow of your site from top to bottom around that conversion, keeping in mind that minimalism will convert more than informationalism.
And it could be as simple as subscribe to my blog, because if you don't have a product or service yet, but you're taking action and getting started like we talked about, you might just be building your list. So create value through your blog articles and start building your list so that when you do have a product to launch and to market, that you've created a list that you can nurture. So.
Absolutely. Well, that about wraps up where I'm at content-wise. Do we have any questions on or comments in the?
No new questions since the last time we went through.
Okay.
Great.
Fantastic.
But we've had good activity
Great.
considering the
Yeah.
late. Hey,
The late
come-
start.
Come check us out.
Yeah.
Late.
So, really excited that you joined us today. We will have another hangout for you that has more valuable information next week. Might talk about specifically those things that keep them on your site in terms of calls to action.
Yeah, now I got in my head.
That's right. And possibly landing pages. So keep that in mind and tune in next week, and continue to check out our YouTube channel, Web Ready Blueprint System on YouTube. And you can also go there and see the ones that we've done on the Google Hangout on yours. So thanks for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time.